Have you ever been in a conversation where the other person is full of anger and not making sense? Their words sting, and their tone is sharp. What started as a simple disagreement quickly turns into a storm of accusations. You feel overwhelmed, defensive, and wonder how things got so out of control. These situations test our patience and ability to stay calm. The natural reaction is to fight back, to respond with the same anger. But what if there was a smarter way? A way that not only protects your dignity, but also makes the other person stop and think about their behavior? Stoicism offers us tools to handle even the most heated situations with calm and strength. Instead of reacting immediately, Stoic principles help us stay in control of our response, guiding the conversation in a way that makes the other person question the point of their aggression. Today, we will explore 6 ways of speaking inspired by Stoic wisdom that can help you stay calm and gently lead an aggressive person to realize their actions are pointless. These aren't just ideas to think about, they are practical tools you can use. With practice, you will find that even when someone is at their worst, you can stay at your best. Before we begin, I want to thank you for all the support you've shown. Making these videos is a joy, but it's your kind comments that really make it all worthwhile. I read every single one. If this is your first time watching, please like this video and turn on notifications. This way, YouTube can show it to more people who might benefit from it. As you watch, think about a time when someone's anger made you feel cornered or misunderstood. Maybe you even wanted to respond with anger yourself. These Stoic methods are not just theories. They can change how you respond in tough situations. With practice, you will learn how to stay calm, no matter how the other person behaves. So, let's begin this journey together. By using these Stoic tools, you'll find it easier to stay in control of your emotions, protect your peace, and help others rethink their actions without getting caught up in unnecessary conflict. Recognize hidden assumptions. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation where someone asks a question, but instead of wanting to understand, they seem to be pushing you into agreeing with something you didn't believe? These types of questions might seem innocent on the surface, but they often come with hidden assumptions. They can trap you into agreeing with something you never actually intended to support. If you don't recognize this, you might unknowingly accept a false idea or viewpoint. I once faced a situation like this during an important meeting. A colleague, someone I had always trusted to be honest and straightforward, suddenly asked, "Do we really want to pursue an idea that most people are clearly against?" On the surface, it seemed like an innocent question meant to gauge consensus. But if you look more closely, the question carried an assumption. It implied that most people were against the idea I was supporting. Had I reacted without thinking, I might have agreed with this false assumption and let my idea be dismissed. Instead, I took a moment to pause, stay calm, and respond thoughtfully. I said, "I wasn't aware that this approach was widely opposed. Has anyone shared contrary opinions that I might have missed?" By doing this, I calmly challenged the assumption without getting defensive. My response not only shifted the conversation toward a more balanced discussion, but it also opened the door for others to express their true opinions. As it turned out, the idea I had been advocating actually had more support than I had realized. Hidden assumptions don't just show up in professional settings, they can also appear in personal relationships. I once met an old friend after some time apart, and during our conversation they asked, "Do you still cling to those odd ideas you used to share?" The question caught me off guard. It implied that the beliefs I held were strange or unusual. Reacting with irritation or defensiveness would have made the situation tense and awkward. But instead of reacting emotionally, I simply smiled and said, "It seems you find those ideas unusual. I'd love to hear why you feel that way." By responding this way, I avoided escalating the situation and turned the conversation into a chance to understand my friend's perspective. When I listened to what they had to say, I realized that what they considered odd was simply a difference in how we viewed the world. Their perception of my beliefs wasn't necessarily wrong, it was just different. This helped us engage in a more meaningful conversation where both of us could express our views openly. Stoicism teaches us an important lesson here. True peace doesn't come from trying to control what others say, calm and composed, rather than reacting in anger or frustration. By doing this, we protect our inner peace and avoid being manipulated by others. Imagine a situation where a family member asks, "Do you really think you know better than everyone else here?" The question is designed to make you feel defensive or guilty, but reacting impulsively would only escalate things. A stoic response, on the other hand, might be calm and measured. "I don't think that at all, but I'd really like to hear everyone's thoughts on this." This response challenges the hidden assumption in the question and shifts the focus toward a more respectful and open discussion. Recognizing and questioning assumptions not only helps you avoid unnecessary arguments, but also allows you to maintain your dignity and self-respect. A Stoic understands that unnecessary conflict only leads to discomfort and resentment. By staying calm and composed, you protect your inner peace and encourage others to engage in more meaningful and respectful conversations. The key here is to remember that you always have the right to stand firm in your beliefs without being drawn into unnecessary arguments. You don't have to accept assumptions or pressure from others. When you reject external assumptions and stay true to what you believe, you not only protect your own peace, but also show others that they need to examine their own hidden agendas and assumptions. This can lead to deeper, more authentic conversations where both sides can learn and grow. So, the next time someone asks you a question that feels loaded with assumptions, take a moment to reflect. Don't let yourself be trapped into agreeing with something you don't believe. Instead, challenge the assumptions calmly and respectfully. Doing so will help you maintain your peace, encourage others to think more deeply about their own views, and create more meaningful and constructive discussions. This is the Stoic approach to life, protecting your tranquility, staying true to your values, and expressing your beliefs honestly while fostering understanding in others. 2. Escape the trap of distorted words. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation where someone twisted your words so much that you barely recognized what you had said? This can be a frustrating experience. It not only confuses the person speaking, but it can also push them into a defensive position, forcing them to explain and justify themselves, which often leads to unnecessary arguments. What's worse, these verbal traps aren't always just simple misunderstandings. They are often deliberate attempts to manipulate the conversation and control how things unfold. In these situations, staying calm and thinking clearly becomes your greatest strength. Stoicism teaches us that real strength doesn't come from trying to control what others say, but from mastering how we respond to them. When faced with distorted words, our ability to stay composed and respond wisely is what keeps us in control of the situation. I remember a time when I saw a colleague fall into this kind of trap. She was known for her creative ideas and her enthusiasm for improving things at work. During an important meeting, she proposed a way to streamline certain processes to make them more efficient. However, another colleague, who was resistant to change, twisted her words, saying that her suggestion implied all the current processes were ineffective. It was clear that this wasn't what she meant at all. Instead of getting defensive or trying to argue back, she paused, took a deep breath, and calmly replied, "I'm not saying all current processes are ineffective. What I'm suggesting is that we could enhance a few areas to achieve better outcomes." This simple response not only corrected the misrepresentation, but also highlighted the absurdity of the distortion, leaving no room for further manipulation. Her calmness and clarity turned the conversation around, leaving the other person with no ground to stand on. This kind of verbal trap is common. Often these distortions are based on exaggeration or misinterpretation, designed to provoke an emotional response. If you react impulsively, the situation will likely escalate, and the conflict could grow out of control. But by maintaining your composure and responding thoughtfully, you can protect your viewpoint and command respect from those around you. A Stoic would never allow such a situation to provoke them into reacting emotionally. Instead, they would use clarity and wisdom to guide the conversation back to a more constructive direction. I've seen this happen in a different setting as well, between two friends. One was sharing their viewpoint on a social issue, and the other interrupted with a sarcastic remark, trying to dismiss their perspective as irrational. Instead of snapping back or defending themselves angrily, the first friend responded gently, "I see you have a different perspective. I'd like to understand more about your thoughts on this." This approach not only diffused the tension, but also invited a meaningful conversation. It wasn't about winning an argument, but about learning from each other and engaging in a respectful exchange of views. Watching this, I realized that how we respond to challenges speaks volumes about our emotional maturity. It's our reactions that often determine the direction of a conversation, not the words of others. The Stoic philosophy emphasizes that inner peace is not achieved by controlling the actions of others, but by mastering our emotional reactions. When someone distorts your words or misrepresents your thoughts, your best response is to stay calm and respond with precision. There's no need to become defensive or feel personally attacked. Instead, calmly restate your position and gently guide the conversation back to its original purpose. This approach not only prevents unnecessary conflict, but also helps to maintain your integrity. By staying clear headed, you prevent others from manipulating the conversation or pulling you into a dispute. It also helps create a space where people can engage in open, honest, and constructive communication. When faced with these types of verbal traps, it's important to remember, is it worth getting into a heated argument? Or is it better to stand firm in your beliefs and foster a positive, respectful dialogue? As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, if someone can provoke you, it is because your mind has consented to their provocation. This means that if someone is trying to upset you or distort your words, it's important to recognize that you still have the power to choose how you respond. By keeping your composure and clarity intact, you resist the external pressures that might otherwise disrupt your inner peace. This doesn't just protect your integrity, it invites others to engage with you in a more honest and constructive way. When you show that you're not easily swayed by manipulation, you set the tone for a more meaningful conversation. This is the Stoic way, maintaining your calm, staying true to your beliefs, and steering conversations with wisdom rather than reacting impulsively. So, the next time you find yourself in a situation where someone distorts your words, don't let it catch you off guard. Stay calm, think clearly, and respond with precision. By doing so, you not only preserve your peace, but also encourage a healthier, more respectful way of communicating with others. The power lies in how you respond, not how others try to provoke you. 3. Handle the storm of questions. Have you ever been in a situation where a question was asked and it made you feel trapped? It's as though answering it meant agreeing to something you don't actually believe in. These types of questions might seem harmless at first, but they often contain hidden assumptions meant to challenge your beliefs or push you into a defensive position. Not only do these questions shake your confidence, but they can also pressure you into responding in the way the person asking expects. This kind of challenge is exactly where Stoic philosophy can help. Stoicism teaches that our true power lies in how we choose to react to situations, especially when emotions might urge us to respond impulsively. Instead of rushing to answer, the Stoic way is to pause, analyze the question, and decide how to respond in a way that stays true to your beliefs. I once experienced a situation like this at a family gathering. A relative, known for being blunt, asked me, "Do you really think spending so much time reading those books is the best way to live your life?" On the surface, this question seemed like a simple criticism of my hobby, but it carried deeper implications. It wasn't just questioning my choice to read, it was implying that my time spent reading was a waste. If I had responded quickly, I could have fallen into the trap of defending myself and arguing the value of reading, but instead, I chose to stay calm and respond thoughtfully. I said, I believe everyone finds value in life in their own way. For me, books offer perspectives I can't find anywhere else. What do you find most meaningful in how you spend your time? This response not only defended my choice, but also shifted the conversation into a more mutual and understanding space. Rather than engaging in a heated argument, I invited my relative to share their views, which allowed for a more meaningful exchange. It also took the pressure off me to justify my actions, and instead, we started to have a true conversation about what gives life meaning. These kinds of questions don't just appear in family settings, they can show up in many areas of life. For example, I watched a friend navigate a tricky situation while shopping. A salesperson asked, do you want this dress or that one? I think both would look great on you. The question was loaded with the assumption that my friend had already decided to buy one, which created pressure. To choose quickly. Rather than feel cornered by the assumption, my friend calmly replied, thank you for the compliment. I'm still exploring some options, but if I need help, I'll let you know. Her response allowed her to maintain control over the situation without being rushed into a decision. She didn't let the salesperson's assumption dictate her actions. This is a perfect example of how Stoic wisdom can be applied in everyday life. Stoicism emphasizes that, in any situation, the most important thing isn't the question asked, but how we choose to respond. When faced with tricky or leading questions, the key is to stay calm, analyze the question logically, and respond with clarity. If someone asks, don't you think spending too much time on a hobby is a waste? Instead of immediately defending yourself, you can respond with something like, I believe every hobby has value in its own way. For me, it's how I recharge and find joy. What brings meaning to your life? This response not only protects your viewpoint, but also opens the door for a meaningful conversation, rather than one that's defensive or argumentative. It's an invitation to share perspectives, rather than feeling like you need to prove something. When you encounter questions that are designed to put pressure on you or impose assumptions, remember that you have the power to choose how you react. You can stay grounded in what you truly believe and not let someone else dictate your response. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In every situation, remain steady with calm and self-control. By doing so, you not only protect your peace of mind, but also send a clear message. You are not easily swayed by external pressures. This strength of resilience and wisdom is at the heart of Stoicism. So, the next time you're faced with a question that feels like a trap or a push to defend yourself, take a moment to pause. Choose how you want to respond with clarity, confidence, and calm. By doing so, you will not only protect your inner peace, but also invite others into a more respectful and meaningful conversation. This is the true power of Stoic wisdom, staying true to your beliefs and responding thoughtfully, no matter how challenging the situation may seem. 4. Respect the truth and avoid creating a straw man. Have you ever experienced a situation where someone completely twisted your words? It can be incredibly frustrating, especially when they take what you said and change it into something you never meant. Moments like these can test your patience, pushing you to the point where you might feel like defending yourself by engaging in an argument. But is reacting to this distortion really the right way to handle things? Stoicism teaches us that the value isn't in winning a conversation or an argument, but in maintaining integrity, truth, and respect, both for ourselves and others, even when others don't treat us the same. I once witnessed a situation at a book club meeting where a member shared their opinion about a novel. They said, I think the protagonist is genuinely selfish in how she treats the people around her. Almost immediately, another person jumped in with, "So you're saying she's a horrible person and doesn't deserve any sympathy?" This was a clear distortion of the original statement. Instead of addressing the actual opinion, the second person turned it into something much more extreme than what was actually said. This not only misrepresented the original point, but also created unnecessary tension in the discussion. Instead of getting defensive, the first person responded calmly, saying, "No, I don't think she's entirely horrible. I just noticed that some of her actions could come across as selfish. But I understand everyone may see her differently. What's your perspective?" This response not only clarified their original viewpoint, but also shifted the tone of the conversation back to a more constructive direction. It opened the door for a more meaningful discussion, helping to clear up the misunderstanding without escalating the conflict. This kind of situation, where someone twists your words, can often test your emotional resilience. A Stoic would not retaliate by distorting the other person's viewpoint in return. Instead, they would separate themselves from the emotions of the situation and focus on clarifying the truth. The goal isn't to win, but to maintain your integrity and express your true thoughts calmly. Imagine being at a family gathering and a relative says, "Why do you always think you're better than everyone else?" This type of accusatory statement can easily provoke anger or defensiveness. But instead of reacting emotionally, you could respond calmly, saying, "I don't think I'm better than anyone. Is there something about how I've acted that made you feel that way?" This response not only helps to clarify your stance, but also invites the other person to share their feelings without escalating the conflict. Stoicism teaches that true inner peace comes not from controlling what others say or do, but from controlling how we respond to them. So, when someone deliberately distorts your words, remember that you don't have to engage in their game. By detaching your emotions from their provocation and staying firm in your truth, you can maintain your stability and avoid unnecessary confrontation. If necessary, you can use questions to steer the conversation back to a more productive direction. Instead of allowing yourself to be dragged into a pointless argument, ask yourself, what is the goal of this conversation? Is it worth getting involved in a heated debate? Or should I simply hold my ground and encourage a more meaningful discussion? As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't waste time arguing about what a good person should be one." In other words, don't get caught up in pointless debates. Live according to the truth and let that guide your actions. By living in a way that's true to yourself and the facts, you not only protect yourself from unnecessary arguments, but also demonstrate real strength of character. Maintaining your composure and handling every situation with honesty and integrity helps preserve your self-respect. It also earns you the respect of others. When you stay calm, clarify misunderstandings, and avoid getting caught in the trap of distorting someone else's words, you show that you are grounded in your own truth. This is the true power of Stoicism, the ability to handle conflict with grace, clarity, and integrity, regardless of how others may behave. By doing so, you not only protect your peace of mind, but also encourage those around you to engage in more meaningful, honest conversations. So, the next time someone twists your words, take a step back. Don't react with anger or frustration. Instead, calmly restate your position, ask clarifying questions, and continue to hold your ground without falling into the trap of misrepresentation. By doing this, you will not only protect your integrity, but also invite others to engage in a more thoughtful and respectful exchange. This is the true strength of the Stoic mindset, focusing on the truth and maintaining integrity, even when faced with the challenge of distorted words. 5. Use visual imagery to convey a deep message. Have you ever been in a tense conversation where your words felt like sharp tools? Not to build understanding, but to protect yourself. Sometimes we don't realize that aggression in communication doesn't always come from tone or content. It comes from how we use words. Words, when not wielded with care, can become like blades, cutting through the conversation instead of opening a space for connection. Stoic philosophy teaches us that the true power of words lies not in proving we are right, but in their ability to connect with another person's soul, evoking empathy and opening new perspectives. One of the most effective ways to communicate deeply and clearly is by using imagery. Visual metaphors can bring clarity to complex ideas and express compassion, all while delivering profound messages in a simple way. I remember a time when I was walking through a park in a foreign city and I saw a father yelling at his son for spilling a bottle of water. The boy's eyes were filled with fear, and the father's face was red with anger as he repeated, "Be more careful." The tension in the air was thick, and the situation didn't seem to be improving. I approached them carefully and said, "You know, anger's like a stirred up pond. The more you stir it, the murkier it gets. But if you let it settle, everything becomes clear." The father paused, breathed deeply, and then sat down beside his son, speaking to him in a much calmer tone. It was a small moment, but I believe that metaphor helped the father reassess his emotions. Using imagery isn't about forcing someone to see things your way. It's about guiding them toward understanding. When we use metaphors, we don't just communicate our message, but also create space for others to explore their own feelings. For example, if someone is angry or critical about something they cannot control, you might say, "Your anger's like a fire. It can destroy everything around you, or if you control it, it can become the energy that lights the way ahead." Such words not only soothe, but also invite the person to reflect on how they are dealing with their challenges. Stoic philosophy teaches us that the purpose of communication is not to win an argument, but to build mutual understanding. Using imagery is not about proving who is right. It's about encouraging respect and understanding between people. Let's say someone misinterprets your words. Instead of getting into a back and forth argument, you might say, "Words are like mirrors. They reflect what we bring into the conversation. If you something you're holding within." This kind of imagery encourages the other person to reconsider their perspective and reflect on their own emotions. It gently invites them to see that the issue may not be solely about what was said, but about how they're feeling. When we communicate with imagery, we practice kindness and understanding. Metaphors not only help clarify what we mean, but also create a safe space for dialogue where no one feels threatened or pressured. Imagery has the ability to turn a potentially heated situation into a more thoughtful and open discussion. It allows us to step away from defensiveness and focus on connecting with the other person. Remember, your words aren't meant to combat others, but to connect and guide. When faced with aggression or misunderstanding, ask yourself, what can I say that preserves my peace, but also helps the other person see the issue in a better light? This kind of approach is exactly what Stoic philosophy encourages. It teaches us to engage with the world with calmness, compassion, and the power of wisdom. In a world where arguments often escalate and emotions run high, using imagery can be a powerful tool to bring clarity and understanding. It allows us to shift the conversation from conflict to connection. By choosing our words carefully, we don't just avoid misunderstandings. We create opportunities for meaningful dialogue. So, the next time you find yourself in a challenging conversation, think about how you can use a metaphor to clarify your point and help others see things from a new perspective. This is the Stoic way, to communicate with compassion, wisdom, and the power of clear, calming imagery. 6. Reveal that they have already agreed with you. Have you ever had a conversation where the most important thing wasn't to win, but to find a deeper connection with the other person? Often in discussions, we can get so caught up in trying to prove our point that we forget the goal is to understand each other better. There's a subtle and powerful way of communicating that doesn't rely on persuasion or dominance, but instead gently shows the other person that they may have already agreed with you all along. By revealing common ground, you not only diffuse tension, but also create a space for mutual respect and understanding. This approach can transform even the most challenging conversations into opportunities for growth and connection. Stoic philosophy teaches us that actions often reveal more than words. When someone criticizes or challenges you, instead of reacting impulsively, a Stoic seeks to understand the deeper motivations behind their actions. As Epictetus once said, "We have two ears and one mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." For a Stoic, listening is an art not just to understand the surface meaning, but to uncover the values that might be hidden in the other person's words. Listening carefully can allow us to see beyond the words someone says and understand what they truly mean. It's about recognizing the deeper values that drive their opinions. For instance, I remember a time when I was living in a new community, and during a neighborhood meeting, a neighbor expressed frustration about the waste management system, calling it overly complicated and inconvenient. At first, it seemed like they were just being critical, but instead of getting defensive, I listened closely. I realized that their frustration wasn't about the system itself, but about their genuine desire to keep our community clean and protect the environment. I responded calmly, "It seems like we both care deeply about maintaining a clean and sustainable neighborhood. Maybe we can work together to make the system more user-friendly." In that moment, the tension dissipated, and the discussion shifted toward finding solutions. Stoics understand that the best way to find common ground is through gentle questions. Rather than arguing or defending your point, you can ask questions that guide the conversation toward mutual understanding. For example, imagine you have a longtime friend who opposes a new charitable idea you've proposed. Instead of arguing to defend your position, you could ask, "Do you think your concerns about this idea stem from wanting to preserve values we both respect?" This question encourages them to reflect on the shared values between you, making it easier to see where your views align. On another occasion, I had a discussion about finances with a family member who emphasized the importance of saving, while also arguing that other priorities were more important. Instead of escalating the disagreement, I responded, "In a way, might not be immediately apparent. It's about transforming conflict into collaboration by asking questions that shift the focus from disagreement to shared goals." For example, imagine a work scenario where a colleague criticizes your structured approach to processes. Instead of defending yourself, you could ask, "Would you agree that ensuring quality is a top priority for both of us?" This question draws attention to a mutual commitment to excellence, shifting the conversation from conflict to collaboration. In these types of conversations, a Stoic doesn't aim to win, but to guide others toward discovering the truth. When you help someone realize that, in some way, they've already aligned with your perspective, you're not just persuading them, you're inviting them to see a new point of view they may have overlooked. By revealing that the shared truth has always been there, you help others embrace it without causing hurt or anger. Ultimately, Stoic communication is the art of using truth to enlighten, not to coerce. When faced with someone who is hostile or resistant, remember that sometimes the truth is already present. You just need to help them see it. Stoic philosophy is rooted in empathy and patience, encouraging us to guide conversations toward harmony and understanding rather than unnecessary resistance. In life, we will always encounter challenges, many of them in the form of people who seek to dominate or confront us. However, with the 6 methods we've discussed, you now have not only sharp communication tools, but also a way of life grounded in the calm resilience of Stoicism. This is a journey of mastering your reactions and turning challenges into opportunities for growth.